Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Daily Mortgage Rates Live with the Mortgage Calculator. We'll get started here in just a minute once we are live on all of the platforms. So today's topic, obviously we'll check out the live rates for all of our different programs, but we'll go into a little bit of a deep dive here on our bank statement loan options. I have a couple examples of primary, second homes, and investment properties using bank statements for income. So as I said before, just give us a few minutes to go live on all the platforms, and then we will get started for today. If you have any questions while we're going through any of these demos, please drop a comment. We'd be happy to get back to you. And anyone on our team, we have over 400 licensed loan officers, would be happy to send you a full quote with a full breakdown anytime. So with that being said, it looks like we are live. Go ahead and get started for today. So thanks everybody for joining us. My name is Nick Hershey. I'm the president of the Mortgage Calculator. We are a lender that does all kinds of types of loans, everything from conventional, FHA, VA, which we will check out in a second, to our non-QM options, which is going to be our topic for today. One of our non-QM loan options uses bank statements for income. So one of our most popular programs for our self-employed borrowers. So let's go ahead and get started for today. So first off, we want to check out the general market. One of the best things we can look at in order to get an indicator of where rates are going to react is going to be the 10-year Treasury. Definitely easy for everybody to understand. Rates typically move hand in hand in here. It's a little more complicated than that. This gives us a good indicator. You see we had some not so great news come out earlier this week, and rates bumped up, but now we are back to normal. And as I like to put into perspective here, we're pretty much still at 1-year lows. So great opportunity for everybody out there to continue the process and looking at their next home or possibly to lower their rate. So now let's check out today's live rates. So we have over 100 different banks, lenders, and investors we're partners with, and all of our different partners are live with their new rates today. It is just about noon Eastern time here, and that is typically the time we get all of our rates updated. So these will be our live rates for this morning. And we are using a standard scenario here, single family home, $500,000 purchase price, $300,000 loan amount, corresponds to 60% loan to value, 760 FICO score, 40% debt to income ratio. That way we can compare across all the different programs. Obviously, there are a lot of different LTVs and ratios we can use, but this allows us to compare very easily. So first up here, our conventional primary option for a primary home. So this conventional option, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, typically the most common options you think of when you think of a mortgage. Coming in today, rates as low as 5.875, final APR 6.135, you can see there. And we'll typically compare that for our borrowers to an FHA option. FHA does have upfront and yearly mortgage insurance, so the rate is a little bit lower here, 5.25 rate today on FHA, and the final APR comes in very similar there to conventional with all the fees, 6.141. And for our eligible veterans, active service members, and surviving spouses here, we have our VA option. Rates coming in today at 5.375 as the lowest option. And final APR, with all the fees included there, are 5.62. You notice there, we do have some reduced fees there under that program. So definitely, if you are eligible, always look for the VA programs. And another option here for our properties in USDA eligible areas. Those are typically the rural areas of the country. We do have our USDA options for our customers that are eligible under the income limits as well. Rates as low as 5.125. Final APR 5.779 with all the fees that are included in FHA. So we'll typically be comparing that to an FHA example or conventional example when we're looking at USDA. So definitely look at those options if you're looking in those areas. And options are non-QM options, general alt doc primary home, so using any alternative documents, including full doc, bank statements, 1099s, all our different options. And we'll go into a deep dive on bank statements in a little bit here. But we can get rates as low as 5.875, the same as conventional, which is amazing. Final APR 6.145. So you see the costs are just a touch higher than conventional, but it's absolutely amazing for us to use alternative documents and still get the same rates as a conventional loan. And we can use our non-QM programs for investment properties as well. So this is our standard 30-year fixed Rates as low as 6%. Final APR at 6.321 using our alternative docs for non-QM programs. Again, full doc, bank statement, 1099, P&L, all kinds of different options. And we're going to compare that with our conventional option for an investment property. Rates coming in today, 6%, the same. Final APR 6.311, so just a touch cheaper overall on cost for conventional. Absolutely amazing when we can do our alternative docs, bank statements, etc. At the same exact cost as conventional. And one of our favorite non-QM options for investors out there are DSCR options. So this is our standard DSCR with a 3-year prepayment penalty. DSCR stands for debt service coverage ratio. No income or employment needed. We simply use the estimated rents to determine the DSCR ratio. And this has a standard 3-year prepayment penalty, which is pretty common for these investor loans. Rates as low as 5.875 there. Final APR 6.181. It beats our conventional option. So absolutely amazing. Adding a prepayment penalty in there, we can even beat conventional. And we can add a 5-year prepayment penalty option there. Same rate, 5.875, but you see a little bit lower cost, 6.132 on the APR. That's a little bit lower cost overall. And today we'll add a couple more things real quick. We'll go over our no prepayment penalty option for DSCR. Some investors don't want a prepayment penalty, no problem. So you see here rates as low as 6%, final APR 6.321, almost identical to conventional to have no prepayment penalty using DSCR. So DSCR is one of our favorite programs for our investors right now. And our second mortgage option. So a lot of these rates might rate, no problem if you need to get cash out. Definitely look towards one of the second mortgage options here. These are fixed rate second mortgages, and we can use alternative docs because these are non-QM programs. So for our primary home, if we don't want to touch that first mortgage, we need to get some cash out still. We can do a fixed rate second mortgage, even use bank statements, 1099s, etc. And we can get rates as low as 7.875, final APR 8.168. You can see there to get that cash out, that primary home. And we can do the same program for investment property. So our fixed rate second mortgage for an investment property using even alternative documentation, bank statements, etc. And we do even have a DSCR option for this second mortgage to get cash out. So rates as low as 8.75 for investment properties here. Final APR at 9.176. So those are great options if you have a first mortgage you don't want to touch, but still need to access that equity, as most of America has record equity at this very moment. Now let's get into our deep dive topic for today. I pulled up an example of home here. So this is just a home in my area, a nice single family home here. And you see it's out of range of the typical conventional loan limits as well. So if we want to do 5% down or 3% down option that conventional typically allows, this would put us out of reach at a $1.25 million purchase price. So I use this in my example here. And first up is if our customer wanted to buy that exact property that we just looked at with a bank statement loan. The best, lowest down payment we can offer for bank statement options is 10% down, which would still be better than a conventional option because conventional does have loan limits there. So for 10% down, we can purchase this home as a primary. This will be using 12 months of personal bank statements, and there is no PMI ever on our non-QM options. Of course, we can get better rates in pricing if we do 20% or down or more, but this is typically our most common request for our borrowers that are self-employed, looking to use bank statements to get a new primary home. And you see here the rates, we have some rates as low as 7.25 with a cost of 2.475. And we even have a par rate here at no cost, and that rate is 8%. So these are great options in order to just put 10% down here in this example and finance what would be a jumbo loan. This is a non-QM loan, which could be jumbos as well. This would not be financeable under conventional. So these are all the details of the loan. You can see here we set up. But now let's go into an alternative option, which would be purchasing the property as a second home. So especially here in Florida, this is a property right near the beach. We want to make sure we can accommodate our borrowers that want to use it as a second home, second primary home. So we can do the same thing. There are very few options for 10% down, but I did find one this morning, which is pretty amazing. This is also using 12 months of personal bank statements. And again, no PMI required ever on these options. And if we put more common 20% down, obviously we can get much better rates, but this is pretty amazing for a second home to just do 10% down on a jumbo loan, but using bank statements 8.125 costing 2.475. And we can bring that up to an 8.375 rate to lower the cost to 1.975. So still some great options to purchase it as a second home. If we do 15 or 20% down, we'll get much more options at lower rates. And the final option today that we want to go over is for our investor out there. So if we want to purchase that home we just looked at, the same exact home as an investor, this would be for an investment property. A little bit different setup here. For an investment property, we have to put 15% down payment. And this is using 12 months of business bank statements, which is most common for our investors when they request to purchase a investment property. Still no PMI required. And if you put 20% down, we can get better options. This also includes a 3-year prepayment penalty option to help to reduce the rates and costs. Of course, we have no prepayment penalty options, all the way up to 5-year prepayment penalty options, as you saw on the example. Well, let's get into the rates here. So some pretty amazing rates because we were at the prepay and a little more down payment. So rates here as low as 6.75 for a cost of 2.975. So pretty expensive, but if we go up to a rate of 7.65, we can even get a lender credit over $5,000 towards our closing costs there. So a bunch of different options in between, whatever works best for our borrower, we'll go ahead and do. And you see here, still very affordable for our investors out there, putting 15% down, which is pretty amazing. So that is it for our examples today. Let me pull back up rates. I don't see any questions. Again, if anybody has any questions or comments or wants to get a full quote, please get with one of our team members. We'd be happy to help you out. So I hope everybody has a great day, and go ahead and